Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, we have a rather interesting article to review from the government NGO Hope Not Hate. So, let me just wait for some people to come in. Just bear with me. In fact, we can just start. I'm sure people will join in their own time and can just take it back. Okay. Let's start. Let me start reading the article. So those of you who are part of the Speaker's Corner online community will know young Bob, this young gentleman here, not yet officially an adult, though he comes across as one. Very intelligent young man, speaks very well, clearly extremely intelligent, a Christian, knows the Bible, the Word of God very, very well. So why would you say would Hope Not Hate do a hit piece? Well, I'm a bit baffled myself, but it doesn't surprise me because he is reaching new prominence ever increasingly, having sustained a large number of attacks. So where did I find this article? Does Manisinda go onto Hope Not Hate's website? Absolutely not. I certainly do not. I can guarantee you that much. Believe it or not, in my recent research of racist people or racist YouTubers in the UK, it was an actual Nazi-style racist who rather laughingly and in admiration of Hope Not Hate shared the information of this article in his podcast. The man is a vile. He's very much a creep. I'm not even going to share that video or his channel, but I am subscribed, but not for entertainment reasons. I'm subscribed because you've got to be in the know of how these people operate. Anyway, let's proceed with this article. I haven't fully read it, but I know there are some recordings of young Bob in there. So let's proceed. Now, I currently am and have been a big fan of young Bob. I cannot think why anybody would not like young Bob. He seems like a good, honest Christian lad to me. Very, like I said, very intelligent. But let's see what so-called evidence Hope Not Hate presents here. If it's anything like what we've seen against Tommy Robinson, then it's probably going to be a disappointment. So the article is entitled "Revealed: What Young Bob Really Thinks of Nick Tenconi, Turning Point UK, and Tommy Robinson's Inner Circle." Okay, interesting. On a separate note, when Steve Hope Not Hate Steve came to meet me and talk to me at Trafalgar Square after I had been to Telford, he was very interested in what I thought about Tommy's Circle. But unfortunately for him, I didn't really have any information to give him other than my personal opinion. But anyway, I digress. So here's a picture of young Bob, Nick Tenconi, Turning Point UK, which is a Christian organisation. Nick Tenconi is also a Christian, and Tommy Robinson is a new Christian, shall we say, and Bob himself is a Christian. So all these items here are Christian representatives. All right, let's start with the title. Nick Tenconi is an effing idiot. Turning Point UK is undermanaged and will not go anywhere. And Tommy Robinson's support base is brain dead, according to far-right influencer Young Bob. No title of who's written this. No. Okay, so there's no author or disguised author anyway. Next paragraph. Young Bob is one of the young rising stars in Britain's far-right scene. Okay, again, misuse of the term far-right. So basically, far-right is a label used these days on conservatives who have a critical view of the state, from my opinion. Usually white people. As well as having gained over 100,000 followers on X, he is an ambassador of Turning Point UK, an offshoot of the far-right American organisation. An associate of serial criminal and anti-Muslim extremist Stephen Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson. Never miss an opportunity, do they hope not hate, to have an attack on their arch nemesis Tommy Robinson. It's like they could be writing an article of the Indian space mission to the moon, but they will still manage to put in a couple of sentences saying A, Tommy Robinson is X, Y, and Z, and B, his real name is Stephen Lennon. Right, anyway. And in a sign of increasing acceptance of far-right views in the media, a regular guest on Talk TV. So he's gone mainstream, he's got loads of followers, people like him, he's a Christian, and he happened to agree with some points that Tommy Robinson is talking about, but that's being ignored. And in order to read this article and accept its views, you have to accept he's a horrible, horrible, horrible person. Right, I continue. Sorry, I should not really put in my opinion yet, because, we haven't even got to the evidence. But the scene Young Bob is involved in doesn't seem like a happy ship. Earlier this year, an undercover Hope Not Hate reporter found out his real views of those he works with. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I skipped a little bit there. Subtitle: Nick Tenconi is an effing idiot with stupid politics. Well, that's out of context. Did he generally mean that? What's the context with that? I think Nick Tenconi is very pro-Britain. Okay, if somebody said to me they've heard him say some racist stuff, I'll be like, I wouldn't say it can't happen. It could happen, right? So but it's like, if somebody thinks Nick Tenconi is an idiot, then that's all right. What's wrong with that? He might be an effing idiot. The thing is, nobody really knows Nick Tenconi. Nick Tenconi has not understood social media as well as he should. He needs to be on maximum number of platforms doing interviews and winning over the public. But this is the thing. This is the thing with the grassroots conservative movement. Yes, they do very well on social media. Yes, they have a lot of following, and yes, they do get people on the streets. However, they don't really understand PR. I must admit, they're not. They need to get somebody involved with the PR. But anyway, again, I'm digressing. I'm sorry. Young Bob, it states, was particularly disparaging about Nick Tenconi, who, as well being the leader of UKIP, is the chief operating officer of Turning Point UK. I did not know that. So are they funded by Turning Point USA? Are they just partners? Is it a franchise? I would like to know how that works. If somebody, let me see who's in the chat. Okay, if anybody knows if Turning Point UK is a franchise or it's financed by the USA namesake, could you put it in the chat, and I'll come back to the chat shortly. So it states here, the organisation, aka Turning Point UK, of which Young Bob is an ambassador. I'm an ambassador of the Kingdom of God, so I don't know if you're just attacking ambassadors in general, but anyway, get back to the article. Nick, being the leader of UKIP, is like me calling himself a captain because so this is a quote. because I own a dinghy, he said, adding, like it's got the nice name, but what exactly are you doing with it? And what exactly is going to have an effect on me? I have no idea. Let's play this first audio.
Nick being the leader of UKIP is like me calling myself a captain because I own a dinghy.
Yeah, okay, it's got the nice name, but what exactly are you doing? And what exactly is it going to have an effect on us?
Let's play that again. What was that?
Nick being the leader of UKIP is like me calling myself a captain because I own a dinghy.
Yeah, okay, it's got the nice name, but what exactly are you doing? And what exactly is it going to have an effect on us?
Oh dear. All right, so I think what young Bob just said there, because obviously it's not a video, it's just audio. So they've snaked some audio when Bob is not facing the public, whatever, and he is critical of Nick Tenconi, and I think he believes that Nick Tenconi is going around calling himself a captain, and he then, rather in a witty fashion, states that's like me calling myself a captain because I own a dinghy. It's a little bit funny, I'm sorry. That's a little bit hilarious. Next paragraph. Young Bob went on to comment that Tenconi found out that a good way of being popular was always getting in the news for the wrong thing, before referring to him as a effing retard and a effing idiot. Later in the conversation, he said, Tenconi is genuine, but that his politics is stupid. Okay, so he's critical of him, but he also understands where he's coming from. That's what I'm taking away from that. Let's play the audio.
He found out a good way of being popular is always getting in the news for the wrong thing.
Well, exactly. I mean, let's march to Tower Hamlets.
Fucking retard. And then,
I know it's stuff in the window.
No, so I organise a lot of protests outside the Isle of Dogs, which encompasses Tower Hamlets, which includes Whitechapel.
you saw the videos of Nick trying to march through Whitechapel.
Yeah, okay. I told him, you're a fucking idiot. No one, even like the Patriots, they don't want it to happen because it was kick off.
And the reason being is that he's noticed that there's no right party talking about like who's like properly on the ground facing Islamic terrorism or like extremism. Reason being is unless you have a policy platform sorting out migration, you're not going to fix these areas through just marching like a couple of hundred people through the outer area. Like, okay, Tower Hamlets is you stay the way it is as you sort out through a policy platform how to sort out a student inspiration.
Sorry, I've got to come in here. I actually wanted, because I actually wanted Bagsy to come on a live stream because he's jet setting at the moment. But I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to have him do that for various reasons. But it would have been very funny. All right, so that's a bit of a long one. It's 1 minute something, so we get the idea. Again, I can't see what's so detrimental about this. Sorry, hope not hate. I don't understand what's detrimental about this. He's kind of giving Nick Tenconi advice on how to do kind of better things. I mean, I do that generally. I've given indirect advice to a lot of people, and they don't even know I exist, or sometimes they do know I exist. But the point is, that's just how men communicate. Men do not bitch and saying, "Oh God, look at you, what you're wearing." We don't do that. We do it by either through banter or by being critical. And how critical you are in front of somebody to their face is basically how honest you are. Men are very critical. but we don't do it. We try not to do it behind anyone's back. And if we do say anything behind anyone's back, we'll say it to their face. And it sounds like Bob is doing that because he's saying that he said it to his, aka Nick's Tenconi's face. All right, next paragraph. Let's see. Let's get through this evidence. If all of that wasn't bad enough, well, nothing's been that bad yet. Young Bob also took time to declare he doesn't attend UKIP rallies consensually, but only because he has to report on them and explain about Nick's little grift. What? That's a bit weird. Again, my opinion. I don't want to take this position where I'm everything hope not hate you say, and I'm standing against. But I mean, I don't really go anymore, but because I'm that busy. But when I used to go to protests, sometimes I enjoyed it, sometimes I didn't. It was usually they're very tiring. I mean, sometimes I went with Banksy, and that was a bit of a laugh. But they're very tiring, especially when I was reporting, because you're on camera. You know, you have to dress smart. You say the right things. When you've got a cameraman and when you've got a microphone, it's almost as if the whole world is dark and there's a spotlight on you and the cameraman, right? And it's it's extremely kind of tiring and exhausting. And you know, when I was kind of working with the team at Speaker's Corner online, yeah, I had to go to a lot of things that I otherwise wouldn't have to go to if it wasn't part of work. So I understand where he's coming from. He said, it continues, if you ever want a successful march, get behind a banner. Everyone thinks there's hundreds of you, even though there's less than 100. Okay, so he's using PR skills. Now, Nick's little grift. So this is still part of the quotation mark. So I assume the next audio we're going to play is going to play him saying this. It states, now Nick's little grift is that he'll have a banner to ensure that there's bigger numbers and then rant on about things that aren't popular, like this is the 10th crusade. You can't even count. All right, interesting. Let's play this.
I was with him at the pub after the UKIP rally. I do not attend those consensually. I think they're stupid. I attend those because someone I have to report on. Anyway, by the way, if you ever want a successful march, get behind a banner. Everyone thinks there's hundreds of you, even though it's like less than 100. It's an illusion fucking trick, mate. If I get, okay, let's say there's like 100 people at a rally, right? It's not a lot marching, especially down London. Now, if we get all these 100 people behind the banner, the pictures are all going on the photographer. It's going to be directed at the front, which means you can't see the side. Now, if we remove the banner, you can very clearly, because of that banner, see how many people there actually are. Now, Nick's little grift is that he'll have a banner to ensure that there's bigger numbers, and then rants on about things that aren't popular. Like this is the 10th crusade. Can't even count. No, seriously, I love this internet scuffle that like the 10th crusade. It's like you've missed two.
Okay, so fair enough. That is evidence of that, but and he's calling it a grift. So if you're not really in the cool zone like me and you struggle with keeping up with all these terminology, grift is basically insinuate. Oh, what's wrong with my voice? Insinuating that he's collecting money. Now, he is a leader of a party, so he does need to raise cash. He does need to finance it. That indirectly will finance his wages and his team's wages. So this whole kind of thing about grift, everything's a grift. You have to earn your bread from somewhere. It's up to the individual whether or not they want to finance somebody. I mean, this whole thing that people say about Tommy Robinson, like, oh, he's a grifter, He's always begging for money. What do you expect him to do? Do you want him to go work in a Pakistani restaurant in Luton serving tables? Of course not. It's never going to happen. It's just silly. Everything's a grift, whether it's advertising on ITV or whether it's Google sending you an email saying your new video got X amount percentage more views. Why don't you promote it? Does anybody call Google grifters? Everything's a grift, if you want to use that term. Right. Okay, so the next one is young far-right influencer also spoke about the first Turning Point UK demonstration he attended in rather damning terms. The first Turning Point demo I ever went to was when the Palestinians were marching down the cenotaph and we decided to do an Israeli march where we're all holding Israeli flags. And then this is why Nick is insane, because we had a speaker who was walking up to the front away from the crowd screaming, "This is a crusade." Okay, so we know Turning Point, the mothership over in America, is pro-Israeli. We know the conspiracy that Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated, was turning away from Israel's by being pro-Israel. We know that Charlie Kirk was a spokesperson for the Israel Jewish community and government, and in his last few days it seems, if the conspiracies are true, that he was turning away from being pro-Israel. Okay, so this, I didn't know this. I mean, I don't know too much about Turning Point UK, but I have been looking or following the information in regards to Charlie Kirk's death, who was the CEO of the original Turning Point USA. So anyway, let's play this audio and see what young Bob is saying.
The first Turning Point demo I ever went to was when the Palestinians marching down the cenotaph, and we decided to do an Israeli march where we were all holding Israeli flags, and we were in the middle of each cenotaph while they were all marching around with us. We had bottles shoved out. It's quite violent.
And then we had Nick, and then this is why Nick's insane, because he had a speaker, he was walking at the front, so away from the crowd, screaming, "This is a crusade, crusade." You're crazy.
Okay, so again, I'm not sure why that is even potentially critical to young Bob. All right, we move on to the next paragraph. Subtitle: Turning Point USA is undermanaged and will go nowhere. Okay, so why is that a critical opinion? Not sure. He says, not only did young Bob have tough criticism for Tenkoni, he also... How do I even say that word? Cascated? Why do I not know how to say that? Bear with me. I will correct myself while I'm here. Castigate. Okay, not only did young Bob have tough criticism for Tenkoni, he also castigated Turning Point UK as an organisation. Okay, he's allowed to do that. When asked how closely linked Turning Point UK is with the American organisation, young Bob responded that he had done a test. Interesting. He explained, I messaged the American COO because he follows me on Twitter. He gave me a response. Essentially, a good way of indicating whether you're linked is that if you send a message to the boss of the American branch and he sends it back to your boss, then it's linked. So who's your boss then? So okay, I'm getting confused. So young Bob has a boss, and that boss is who? Is that the management authority of Turning Point UK? That needs to be clarified. Next paragraph. He detailed that he sent a message to him saying, The organisation is undermanaged, underfunded, and will not go anywhere. So he's being truthful. He sent a message being truthful, adding, he sent me a message agreeing with a statement and nothing ever happened to me. What? He sent me a message agreeing. Is this supposed to be am I misreading this or something? Is this supposed to be controversial? I haven't read anything or heard anything controversial, but let's listen to this audio anyway. 22 seconds.
I did a test. I messaged the COO, who follows me on Twitter, gave me a response, and essentially,
A good way of indicating whether you're linked is that if you send the message to the boss of the American branch, he sends it back to your boss that's linked.
I sent a message to him like, this organization is undermanaged, underfunded, and will not go anywhere. It's under improper leadership.
They sent me a message agreeing with the statement.
Okay, again, whatever. I mean, I hate to say this. I'm more critical of my own family than young Bob is of all these so-called organizations and people. He's making me out to be a very critical person. I don't find too much wrong with criticism. It can be very healthy. Let's continue with the article. Next subtitle: Tommy Robinson has brain dead support base, but doesn't everybody has some not so clever people supporting them? You know, okay, let's continue anyway. Nick Tenconi and the rest of Turning Point UK's team aren't the ones likely to be miffed by the young Bob's views. Oh, okay. That includes me, I think. I'm miffed. In the last few months, the far-right influencer has become increasingly associated with Stephen Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson. On 10th of October, not 10 October, 10th of October, who passed this as copyright? Lennon proudly announced on X, young Bob joins his team. Woohoo! Lennon shared a video of young Bob in which the young far-right influencer explained that he'll be reporting live and direct on Tommy Robinson's YouTube and Twitter page between 1 and 4 p.m. on the first Sunday of every month. Lennon wrote above the video, reporting live from my X channel from Speaker's Corner, Bob will be hosting Change My Mind, stands and challenging public opinion on immigration, economics, Islam and more. It must be bad news for Lennon, then, that young Bob has described his support base as brain dead and suggested he has an... What? Let's do this word so I pronounce it correctly. Obsequious inner circle. He claimed that Lennon has a private appreciation of Muslims that integrate in society before commenting. However, when you bring such a brain-dead support base, unfortunately the nuance gets lost in a crowd of people that are protesting with you. What a stupid thing to publish. Hope Not Hate, who primarily exists to prove Tommy Robinson wrong by calling him racist, calling him far right, calling him Nazi and calling him anti-Muslim, are now presenting evidence of a man that Tommy Robinson organization employs who has now vindicated Tommy Robinson because he states that Tommy Robinson has appreciation of Muslims and are happy that they can integrate into society when they integrate into society. Is this low IQ or is this just me? This is ridiculous. Hope Not Hate. Like, what are you doing? You need a better editor. You need somebody who's a bit more organized. Why is tax money even going to you? I mean, if you're supposed to be targeting, if your speciality is supposed to be targeting Tommy, then why are you supporting him by attacking another person which vindicates him? Let's play the audio.
So Tommy himself, like, because he grew up in Luton, he shares a sort of private appreciation of Muslims that integrate to this society. However, the people that he surrounds himself with and the slogans he will bring out, of course, embodies that disliking you. So, for example, the I forget what Uzbek first, but they tried to do a hit piece now through contacting some of the Asian boys at his school. Then they all supported him, even after it, one at the end. And the reason being was because, you know, they liked it. And I see that a lot of the time, people who can accept the fact that some Muslims at the right path and others can't. However, when you bring such a brain-dead support base, unfortunately, the nuance gets lost in the crowd of people that are protesting with you.
Okay, well, he does seem to call some of the supporters brain dead. But I think whoever organised this article, because there's no actual author, overlooked the fact that the whole point of Hope Not Hate seems to be primarily attacking Tommy Robinson, but you just vindicated him. It's a bit weird. Next paragraph. Young Bob also shared his views on Lennon's inner circle, explaining, you'd think that like the whole sucking up to Tommy was something that they did online to be popular. No, they do it off camera. It's like, who can be Tommy's best boy? I was in a van with Don Keefe and all his security. I was in a transit van for about an hour. Like, oh my goodness, I went into politics not to lick their asses. Okay. All right. So Tommy clearly, from what reading between the lines, Tommy likes people that are on his side. We know that. You know, that's kind of obvious to me. So, you know, so middle people such as myself who are on the same side as Tommy when I think he does right. I'm also critical of Tommy when I think he's does wrong, are probably never going to get to be invited in personal quarters. So there you go. Let's listen to this audio.
You'd think that the whole like sucking up to Tommy was like something they did online to be popular. No, they do it off camera. It's like, who can be Tommy's best boy?
I wasn't a fan of Don Keefe. I know he's security in Don Keefe.
One of his friends. He was in a transit van for about an hour. They're all trying to force people. No, I can help you.
Dogs. Like, oh my goodness. I went into politics. I was going to lick their arse, man.
Well, he clearly said that. So, you know, if anything was needlessly critical, but it wasn't needlessly critical. Let me come back to that point, because I'm going to conclude by slightly favouring Hope Not Hate, believe it or not. But I'll come back to what point came to my head then. But finally, to finish off this article, why does young Bob bother with them? Subtitle. Given his clear and understandable frustration, we wonder why young Bob continues to bother with Nick Tenconi, Turning Point, and Stephen Lennon. Okay, so that's the article there. You guys can go read that. I'm sure you probably won't want to now that I've covered it. Okay, so let's conclude on this. The article is overall 99.9% pretty pants. It's like handbags at dawn. He said this and he said that. Clearly and evidently, young Bob is critical. I think that's perfectly healthy. I think whenever you have new people arriving, even though he's been around for about a year or two now, you know, they bring in their own personality and their own ideas and so on and so forth. And, you know, he's not even 18, and yet, you know, he shook the ground at Speaker's Corner, and he clearly has a lot of support from the Conservative movement. He's Christian, so the Christians will favour him in some ways. Articles like this are certainly not going to hinder him, because it's mostly what's the right term? Just a load of baloney. But however, there was a few things that he said that was a bit too much, like, rein it back a little bit. But I don't know him. I don't know young Bob. I don't know his personality. So this type of criticism might partly be his personality. So yeah, bit disappointed about the waffle in that article. But having said that, with Hope Not Hate, I think it's important to have opponents to all groups, right? I think it's important to have not an echo chamber, but to have healthy debate. And Hope Not Hate could have very easily have positioned themselves as the healthy opponent to the Tommy Robinson opponent. But the problem is, the way everything has been presented by Hope Not Hate, generally over time, always ended up stinking. And also with how they've done needless criticism and attacks, just like that article, it kind of makes you think, like, what, and how they've kind of, I've seen tweets from members of Hope Not Hate, stating we're going after this person, going after that. I mean, who does that? That's a lot of anger. That's a lot of vengeance. That's a lot of targeting. And we now know this is clearly a lawfare type tactic to operate like that. The average person doesn't like these type of things. I definitely regard myself as an average person. So I'm just kind of saying, if anybody was to listen to this, to let people understand that the average person doesn't like this type of thing. If you want to be critical to someone like Tommy Robinson or anybody else, sure, but do it in a healthy way. Do it with ways without kind of targeting them. But that's just my opinion. What do I know? I wanted to cover that article for everybody. But now I'm going to go because I want to watch football. I want to thank everybody for watching this. I do find it funny that the Hope Not Hate article attacking young Bob actually vindicates Tommy Robinson. I find that hilarious. I'm not in contact with Tommy Robinson or anything like that. So if anybody is, I believe he's on X a lot. If anybody is, send him this video or send him the article. Just to kind of point out to him, like, you've been vindicated by Hope Not Hate. And, they might change it. I doubt it, though. But yeah, it'll be funny. But thank you very much for watching. If you can just hit the like and share button. I continue to be shadow banned, like something very badly. I don't know why, targeting me. It's not that I ever get the old numbers, I used to get thousands upon thousands of views. Now, it's very difficult. Mind you, from when I did do the live streams back in 2018, 2019, it's all changed tremendously. It's not just about just firing up a live stream. It's a lot more complex to that. But I'm going to go now. Thank you very much for watching. Hit the like, hit the share, and I'll see you next time.